Have you just got Wixwell and you want to know what to do with him when it comes to clan boss? A bit unsure? Well, watch this video and I will talk you through what I have done to be able to one key Ultra Nightmare. So we got him, now we need to know how he works. So the first bit of his kit is his A3, which is an increased defense and a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns, and it's proportionate to his defense. So quite similar to a lot of other characters. It has an intercept stack as well on all allies, but it's this shield that he places. And then in conjunction with that, we've then got his A2. His A2 increases all the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn, and then he increases the value of all of the shields on all allies. The value that they're increased by is proportionate to the number of buffs that he has increased the duration of. So the way that really works is you want as many buffs as possible on the team, as well as many shields as possible on the team, and then he increases them, and he'll increase them by a proportionate amount. So the more you have, the more the shield increases, and that carries on rolling and rolling and rolling. So the way that the team works is he places everyone else, if there is shields, they place their shields, he places his shields, and then with all the buffs that are on, he then increases them, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger each turn, to eventually the clan boss can't actually hit through the shield. And that's why you do it's like max turns, so you do 1500 turns on the clan boss, as opposed to say the usual 50 if you're doing an unkillable team like a Demethea or Man-Eater type team. This can be 1500, which is usually, if obviously speeds are correct, you're usually doing about 150 boss turns, so you're getting an extra 100 turns on top. And obviously if you speed tune it more, you can get even more turns and more damage. So well, you can only do up 1500 turns, but obviously you can do more damage if you're obviously doing a lot more, if your stats are better. So how does this work? We've got here the shield that he increases it by 1 turn. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. His shield lasts for 2 turns. So what we have is a bit of a disparity here, because his shield is only lasting for 2 turns, and he's only increasing every 3 turns by 1 turn. So to make this team work, you need a further 2 buff extenders. So what you need to do is look on here and go other effects, positive effects, and increased buff duration. So some of these characters here have certain buffs. So if we look at with the crown, go, oh, Sheikah may be useful, but then we look here and it increases the duration of all continuous heal buffs. So that's not all buffs, that's just a specific buff. So the 2 that I have picked within my team are a gentleman that I recently pulled, a very good one, Graazur Iron Gut, who has it on it needs to be a 1 turn increased buffs on a 3-turn cooldown once booked. So we've got this on his A2. So increase the duration of all buffs by on all allies by 1 turn. And then the other one I've picked is Bowf the Rancid, who again on his A2, 3-turn cooldown, increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. So what you have is you have Wixwell increasing the buffs by 1 turn, Graazur and Bowf. So for you, you can obviously look throughout your team. I've obviously got Gaif the Truth Seeker. Again, if I fully book her, this will be a 3-turn cooldown, and again increases the duration of all ally buffs, so she can work. I've got Hellborn Sprite, who on A3 does the same, increases the duration of all buffs. And you can go through your team, because at the end of the day, I'm looking at obviously what I've got, and my roster is potentially limited, or I've got different characters from what you've got. So you need to get 3-turn cooldown and increase ally buffs. Once you've got that, you've got the basis of the team. And this is where obviously I was watching a video by a gentleman called Sam the Raidman, and I will link the video in the description, where he obviously describes having the free characters with the one called increases in the buffs by 1 turn on a 3-turn cooldown, needs at least 3. In addition to that, you want a shield set. So for me, mine is slightly different because of the characters I've got. because I am using Pelops in my lineup. So if I were to show you my team, my clan boss team as it actually stands, we'll go into this. We'll go into Ultra Nightmare, and this is my current team. So I have Wixwell in the lead, increasing the defense on all battles by 28%. I've got Graazur, I've got Bowf, and then I've just got these two as well. So Xenomorph is just a DPS, and I'm sure within the comments people can say this character will do more damage, etc. I was considering using Geomancer, but then the reason why I'm not using Geomancer is because I'm using Pelops, because it's duration of all shields. So you've got Wixwell puts his own shield on, a shield set or a character that applies shield also puts a shield on, and then Pelops' magma shield applies a shield. And this is where it's quite useful. On Pelops' A3, you've got here is a magma shield, and the value of the magma shield is equal to 30% of this champion's max HP. It reflects damage. So where I am able to get some good damage, and I will show you here, obviously I shouldn't use my keys, but I'm just going to do it. Show you here, I do this, and what ends up happening, and this is obviously on a decent affinity, except for obviously Wixwell. I've got 150 million damage. So what we've got here is Pelops is doing a lot more damage because of his shield. So I'll look here, and I haven't actually reached the turn limit, so there must have been something that slightly went wrong here. So I'll need to look into it further. And so I think this is obviously because of the affinity. But if I was to show you an image of one I did earlier on today, as you can see here, this was yesterday even. I only had 1 star on Wixwell, and I was lucky enough to get a 2nd star between attempts, of course. You've got 202 million damage, and Pelops is doing 94 million as a tank. So where this is obviously working is 2 bits really. So he obviously places HP burn, and I've obviously got Skull of Treason. So HP burn debuffs placed by the wearer deal 10% more damage to the enemies with higher max HP, which obviously the Demon Lord does, and also the Magma Shield. So where this works perfectly for me, because I have Pelops, is if Pelops is the first shield applied to the allies or to the team, when the boss hits, it hits the magma shield first, and therefore the damage will be reflected. If I was to have a shield set, which if you look here, I've got Bowf in a 3-piece shield set, and I actually just broke the shield set when I was doing testing, because the shield set applies at the start of it. So the shield set is already, the shield that is given for the shield set would already be there. So as a result, when the magma shield is applied, and then when Wixwell's shield is applied, the boss hits, and it's hitting the shield set shield first. Therefore, there's no reflect damage. So if I was to show you an image to go along with that, it's this one here, which I will just pop up quickly. Which is this one here. So Pelops' damage is 33 million, still respectable, but there's 0 reflect damage because of the shield. Xenomorph is still doing a decent number, and so is everyone else, but because there was no reflect damage, we've then gone from that all the way up to the 93 million he was doing just by utilising the magma shield. So that's where obviously it works for me. For you, what you should be looking to do is if you don't have Pelops, you need to be having Wixwell's shield and a shield set. And then you need to go through the rotation where all of your characters do all of their buffs, and then they do the buff increase, the duration increase, and then after that it's just a case of rinsing and repeating. So as soon as he can go to this, you want to turn his A3 off, and then you want his A2 to be working. So by that, what I mean is, if we look here, we've got, he does his A3 to begin with. So he puts his shield on. He doesn't do it again. His shield's there. He then increases it when he next takes a turn, and he always prioritises that. So this is for full also. Then the same for Graazur. He does his buffs first. So he's increased res, increased defense. He then does his and then he prioritises his increased buff move. Bowf. He does his buffs on the allies, turned off, then does his increased duration of buffs. And then for Pelops and for Xenomorph, it's just a case of Xenomorph. He applies poison on his basic, and the other two moves aren't really great for the boss. So it's just a case of I just use A1, 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 and he stacks up all the poison debuffs. And then obviously Pelops has got his shield, and he does a lot of repeat damage there. So what I've got is I've got a little bit of a diagram here where I have created it for first of all the stats of my team. These are just obviously what I've managed to put together. I've gone from a variance of just under 250 all the way up to Pelops being 273. Their actual speeds are slightly lower, but I have increased some of my Great Hall. So area bonuses earlier on to get a bit of a leg up before I had this team, because I was really struggling. I increased sort of, as you can see, a bit of everything, which if you were to watch any other videos from YouTubers, they'd always say probably not to do this, but it gave me a leg up when I was using what we call a suboptimal team to try and 2-key Ultra Nightmare, and it was these buffs that I've got here helped me to get to that point before I had the gear. Now obviously they're not as useful, but I'm going to show you them because these are obviously what I've got on top of my characters. So I've got, obviously, I said for Pelops he's 273, he is currently 267, but then when you add the extra speed, it gives him an extra 6 speed in total. So if we look at the graphic again, these are obviously the speeds that we're reaching. So what it means is Pelops goes first in the team, he applies his Magma Shield. Wixwell goes second, applies his shield. Then Graazur does his buffs. Xenomorph does his attack. Bowf does his buffs, and then we rotate round. Pelops at this point is just DPSing. Wixwell then does that buff increase, shield increase. Bowf, Graazur, buff duration increase. Bowf, buff duration increase. Xenomorph, Pelops, DPSing, and then it's just a case of rinse and repeating, and it goes along. And what ends up happening is that shield gets so big that the boss can't break through it, and that's why the runs elongate so much that you can do stupid amounts of damage. So if you obviously have certain other units, and we're talking really big boy units like Titus, they do damage based on shields. You can get sort of 2+ billion. I think it's 2.14 billion is the highest amount that obviously registers, but you can do a hell of a lot more than that. So yeah, that's what you want to be looking to aim for. And then obviously if we look at the rotation, like I already said, and I'll obviously attach these images within the video again, obviously you've got Pelops, he goes first, he applies obviously his buffs. You've got Wixwell, he does his as well as the shield. Graazur does his buffs. Xenomorph does a self buff. Bowf does his buff. Pelops does his attack. Then this is where this is the fruity one, is the Tempest of Knowledge, where he increases the buff duration as well, and then increases the value of all shields proportionate to how many buffs were increased. So we've got, how many buffs we've got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There might be some extra ones which are obviously are sort of overlapped. And then obviously we've then got the buff increase again, and then it's just a case of continuing that all the way through, and that's how it works for me. So for you, if you don't have Pelops, I feel sorry for you, but what you then need to be looking to do is having a shield set. So for me, Bowf is my buff extender that I chose to have the shield set. I would then go all the way down here, blah 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 blah. I would then put this item back on and create a shield set as part of it. So he would be set and done as such, and then he would have a shield already. So by the time Wixwell would do his shield move, it would increase 2 shields there and then. And that's what you want to be looking to do. So I think it's relatively simple, and I would like to ask you guys what your gearing requirements are in comparison to me. I do have a lot of characters. I've been pushing quite hard. I've only been playing since late December, but yeah, I have spent. So it'd be interesting to know what my gear is like in comparison to yours, what's available for you. Like for me personally, I've been absolutely smashing the hell out of the event, the new event dungeon. In particular, I'm doing stage 20, which is giving me a selection of 5 and 6 star artifacts and accessories, which is what we're looking when you've got this pinpoint stuff, which is quite good because you want to be looking, you get a bit of accuracy on a one piece, and you get obviously I'm reminding myself now, you get accuracy one piece, speed 10% speed on the 2 piece, and then if you obviously do a 3 piece as well, you're getting an extra 20 accuracy, which is good for damage dealers and debuffs as well. So I've been farming that, and that's given me a lot of extra gear. I'm also in a position where I'm clearing Grim Forest, Doom Tower, so my access to gear is probably quite high, but there is certain speed requirements that you want to be aiming for, and you want to be pushing for your team to be around 250 speed, and in a certain order which is suitable for you. So if we're talking the way that we've laid it out, but you don't have Pelops, you want Wixwell to go first to put his shield on, everyone to do their buffs. Wixwell goes and increases that and increases duration, and then everyone else does the same and they increase their buff duration as well, and then that way the team will work and it will flow, and hopefully by the time you get into the tiers where the boss is ramping up his damage, you won't get through the shield and you're able to do a lot more damage. Yeah, I think that's covered it really. I'm more than happy to sort of answer questions, so if anyone does have any, please obviously leave them in the comments and we'll see what we can do, and if I can help you I will. But again, I've got a lot of my learning, it's self-learned, and I also watched a few videos online myself to give myself a bit of a kind of kick up the backside really. Like I was like, okay, I've got Wixwell, now what do I do? And it's a case of, yeah, you need 2 buff extenders to go with him, and you want a shield set. So they're the things. I have replaced the shield set with a Pelops so I can reflect the damage, but if you don't have Pelops, you want 2 buff extenders and a shield set, and you can have that on anyone really. So if you've got enough speed on a shield set, you can have it on one of your buff extenders. If you don't, then you can put it on the DPS. But yeah,